4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, gentlemen. Good to see everybody.
Yes, sir.
Happy to be able to say that tonight we have the Four Horsemen all together. We were shorthanded last week. Our buddy T-Rock had a last-minute issue come up that he wasn't able to make it, but he was able to get cleared up tonight. So good to have you here, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Glad to be on.
And we're gonna have some fun, man. We had a heck of a good time last week talking about this. So here's the thing. We had a crazy time talking about the Wildcard. This is a preview show we did for Wildcard Weekend. And then Wildcard Weekend more than lived up to the hype. I mean, these games were incredible. So we're gonna look ahead into the upcoming games. But I thought a good way before we do that would be to rewind a little bit and talk about the games from this past weekend. So we'll do that now. And let's have a look at this weekend's games. I will go in random order because I don't actually know the exact times of each of these games. But I can tell you that I believe the first game of the weekend was Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, sir.
This was a game we talked about it last week. We know we've got a lot of Seahawks fans of the show. Easily our most vocal demographic of fans is Seattle Seahawks fans. So we said last week we thought they were going to lose. We did not think they could pull off the upset against the Niners, but we were rooting for the Niners for the Seahawks fans out there. And we talked it up coming into the game, and long story short, we were right. Seattle could not pull off the upset against the Niners. They gave it a valiant effort. Really, the first half I think was pretty competitive for sure. Yep. And then it kind of got away from them a little bit. So I don't know. T-Rock, you want to start this off on just kind of your thoughts? I mean, all of us, for people who don't know, we all have a group text. We reference the group text literally all day, every day. We're all texting different things, whether it's just funny stuff, links to articles, links to videos, just different things to talk about on the show. We've got a ton of stuff, and needless to say, through all these games, nonstop, we're talking about stuff. So, T-Rock, what were your thoughts there on the Niners Seahawks game?
My thoughts were two players that nobody expected to be in the position they're at this point in the year. Obviously, Brock Purdy, 18 for 30, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he looks good out there. Like, he looks comfortable. It's not like
looks the part.
He looks the part. Like, he looks like he's 12, but he looks like he's confident. And I mean, he's just commanding the offense. And I don't think anybody saw that at the beginning of the year. Obviously things changed throughout the year, but I don't think anybody could have possibly foreseen this right now. So looking the part, dominating. But then the other person that wasn't there, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, what a game changer. I mean, 15 carries, 119 yards.
Stupid.
You take those two players who were not supposed to have any, I mean, obviously McCaffrey wasn't even there at the beginning of the year. And now you've completely flipped the trajectory of this franchise, where now everybody is questioning, like, well, who's the starter going to be next year? Does it take? I was talking to some guys today, and they said, well, I think Brock Purdy needs one more playoff win before they say it's your job. I said, I don't know that I feel like he's done everything he should do to secure this job. Like, I feel like I don't know why you don't give him the first shot. So in that game, I expected Purdy to show his immaturity in the position, and I was completely wrong. He handled it.
That's what we talked about last week. Is that are we going to be surprised if he shows his immaturity? And look, that first drive, he was not good. It was his receivers that bailed him out, and this is like he wasn't accurate with his throws, but the guys were making the throws and still able to get yards after the catch. I mean, this is a complete team. This is a championship team. This is what happens when all things are equal. The better team wins. Like it's, they had to turn them over. They didn't. Geno has 2 turnovers. San Francisco doesn't turn the ball over at all. Seahawks had a lead in that game at halftime. Remember, that was 17-16 at halftime. So, I mean, they hung in there, but it was just, they're just too talented.
Well, I think, too, the thing that's really interesting when we're talking about Brock Purdy is it really demonstrates how important the position you were drafted in becomes in a team's decision making. Because, T-Rock, you were just saying about, well, he needs to win another playoff. Or people were saying that he needs another playoff win before he could be really considered the starter. If that guy had been drafted in the first or second round, whole different mentality toward that, right? They would say, this guy is stepping into his own. We really see why we drafted him. He's doing these amazing things. Instead, he's Mr. Irrelevant. So nobody trusts their own eyes when they can see what he's doing. It's like, well, there has to be sooner or later the other shoe's going to drop. And look, it very well may. Nobody's ruling that out by any stretch. But it's just funny that draft position totally affects the mentality and the attitude and the perception of these players. Because, again, a Brock Purdy doing what he's doing as a mid to late first round pick, this guy is going to be the next Tom Brady. Instead, it's, well, he's doing really well, shockingly, though. So let's see if he can actually continue to keep it up. And, it plays a big role for sure.
You said that people didn't know what they were going to get when they picked him. But I'll tell you what, the one person that did know what they were going to get was LeBron James. He called it. He's the one who basically said,
he always knows.
San Francisco, go ahead and take this guy right now because he's going to be your future. I mean, let's just be honest. That's what happened. He was the only visionary that saw it come to fruition. And look, the guy played well. We saw it. We talked about it last week when we were saying, he can't make the mistakes. He needs to get the ball into the hands of the people that are going to create the offense and get it moving. CMC played great. Ayuk played great. Deebo Samuel played great. Like, all the people that need to get the ball, he needed to get the ball in their hands. It happened. Their offense rolled. We know that their defense is as good as it is, as advertised. And so, the outcome, it was the biggest blowout all weekend. You know what I mean? It was the game that we knew where it was in hand. Yes, it was close all the way up to the third quarter. And then, they just kept on putting it on them, and then, it was over. So, as far as I'm concerned, we can sit there and we could probably pick 3 teams in the AFC, right, that have a chance to go all the way. You know what I mean? Like, we can go there. But the NFC right now, I believe it's the Niners to be that team that's going to show out and represent because they're playing great ball on both sides.
Yep.
Yeah, hard to argue. And we're going to obviously be talking about the Niners a little bit more since they did win. We'll be looking here in a little bit into their upcoming game and seeing how they are going to match up against their next opponent, which I think is going to be very interesting. What you got, T-Rock?
Now, I want to make sure we got to give a shout out to our Seattle faithful, though, because the only reason Seattle was even in this game at all was one man, and he's a man. I mean, DK Metcalf is.
He was setting the tone, man. He was a tone setter for that team.
Like, even if you look at like the box score, you're like, I'm not sure they even showed up for the. Oh, there's DK. Okay, like no one's like. There's nothing There's no contribution from anybody else except for DK. DK is like, I'm going to put this thing on my back and I'm going to make it happen. He was just a monster, and I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think there's enough you can say about his contribution to the team.
Yeah, great point. Great point, man. That dude is a difference maker. He's a physical mismatch for literally everyone on the team, on the field who has to go against him. So DK is a tough player to match up against. He's a nightmare for anyone.
Well, like historically, what wide receiver would you compare him to?
I'd say because of his size, Megatron. You know what I mean? Because he's built. The guy is stacked, and I think Megatron would be kind of like with his size and stuff like that, and Terrell Owens. I think you can compare the two. I would put him around those guys that stature-wise, physically speaking, that's the kind of mold that I would get, for DK Metcalf, because that boy is big.
Yeah.
He is strong.
I would go Anquan Bolden. Yeah, just that toughness.
There is a difference there because of how physical he plays. So you have the size, aspect with regards to a Megatron, but man, it is different as it pertains to the physical nature that the guy plays with. Is just very, very hard to be able to beat. So he's no joke, man. This is a tough man, and yeah, it's hard. You're right. Size wise, you got a T.O., you have a Calvin Johnson, but those guys didn't play with the same aggressive physicality that a DK does. And so, so it's interesting. It's very interesting to see. I'm having a few little technical issues on the camera side, so I'm going to have to just turn the camera off and keep rolling with that. So moving forward beyond that game, Saturday, this is Saturday afternoon, the one and only, and maybe the greatest playoff game that we will see certainly this year. I will not say San Diego Chargers like I did last week.
Thank goodness.
You know what?
Leading up to this show, I was like, I will not say San Diego. I will not say San Diego. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes now talking about why I won't say San Diego.
Sure.
LA Chargers, Jacksonville Jaguars. And gents, we had ourselves a heck of a game between these two teams. We called this as a coin flip game on the show last week, and we specifically said, what do you favor? Do you favor talent? Do you favor coaching? Where do you come in on this? And, that was the back and forth. The Chargers, easily the more talented team, and the Jags, easily the better coached team. And in the first half, this was all about the talent. And we talked about this last week. So, I think it's only fair that we bring it back around. So, Jeff, we talked last week about your history and personal relationship with Trevor Lawrence.
Duval.
You have affected Trevor Lawrence in a way probably as equal to, possibly greater than his parents. And from the time that you became critical of Trevor Lawrence, Trevor turned his play around. And I will say, and I'd be happy to share some screenshots of the text messages. In the first half of the game on Saturday, it was very validating for you in Trevor Lawrence's play. It would be challenging to find a worse. This guy was the equivalent of the Cowboys kicker in Monday night's game in the first half at the quarterback position, right? It was as bad as you're going to find someone play quarterback. What do you have? 4 interceptions in the first half of the game?
4.
So brutal. Teams getting completely buried. You are in your element because this is Trevor proving himself to be what you said he was. I believe there were many texts going back and forth about you laughing about the fact that he was a generational talent and had really earned his draft stock and the like. And then the second half happened. And then it became the Clemson Trevor Lawrence. And man, what a change that team had in the second half. And the Chargers had absolutely no idea what to do.
Not at all.
Well, I mean, who wants to jump in and take this? I'm going to let anybody take this. We got a ton that we could talk about. We obviously don't want to go all night just talking about last weekend's games, but this game definitely deserves some attention.
Well, I'll start since I'm so anti Trevor Lawrence, apparently, even though I said I hope I'm wrong. Never underestimate the San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, whatever Chargers you want them to be. Never underestimate their ability to underperform. You're up 27-0, and you let them come back. That touchdown at the end of the
unlosable game. It's an unlosable game for you.
That's exactly it. That touchdown that Trevor threw at the end of the half, boy, I said, ooh, I don't like that last touchdown pass. Like that just puts them back in this game, right? And really, that's what it come down to. 5 turnovers for the Jaguars. Do you know how many of the Chargers had that game? 0. How do you lose that? How do you lose that game when you are +5? Like this is, we joke about the football gods. This is the football gods coming down and raining down upon the Jacksonville Jaguars, because I would love to see the statistics on +5 in turnovers and still lose the game. It's got to be 1 in a million, right? Like it has to. It's just got to be. I don't even know.
If you were the Chargers at halftime, and I do think that's part of what probably happened here, is that the Chargers just felt like they couldn't lose. Sure. And they came into that thinking, we can just destroy these guys. Halftime, we're in such great shape. There's nothing they can do. These guys can't get out of their own way. We don't have to do anything to finish them off because they're going to beat themselves.
Yeah.
Not the case. Not the case whatsoever. What a turnaround. What an exciting game to watch.
That was crazy.
I mean, that was really a good one.
Here's the thing. So people forget that on Saturdays, Trevor Lawrence is pretty much undefeated, right?
Totally undefeated.
Stemming from his high school, college, all the way, going into the pros. I guess the guy just doesn't lose on Saturdays. So we failed to look at that statistic going into the game, right? We should have known better that this guy was going to be able to do what he did, even though he had a horrible first half. Tad, you mentioned about second half adjustments and what teams would do. The Monday night game was being broadcast, and they did the whole Peyton Manning, Eli and Peyton were talking about it. And something that he said that kind of I found interesting was that he doesn't remember making second half adjustments in his entire career. Like he just remembers going into the locker room, having some oranges, using the bathroom, blah, 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 getting back out there and playing. He's like, he doesn't understand the concept of second half adjustments. So then, got me thinking, is that just something that's good for TV that a commentator wants to say before they go to the locker room? And when you come out, like, okay, that's something that we can talk about because, let's make the adjustment. But apparently that's not something that happens. So for as far as the Jaguars are concerned, you're right, Jeff. That last that touchdown before the half was huge. And the fact that, we talk about his 4 turnovers in the first half, the one that didn't happen was on that last drive when he threw the ball and Van Noy jumps up and it's basically in his hands and he's a lineman. What is he going to do with it? He doesn't know. But that turnover, had that happened, that ball that was going right at him, obviously this would have been a different outcome of the ballgame because they couldn't stop the clock. They had burnt through all their timeouts and the game was over. So that one turnover that didn't happen at the end of that game could have been all the difference. Well, it was. Obviously they go down and they score. Ball game. Yeah.
Well, guys, just to throw back to one thing, we have one of our viewers who's watching the live stream on YouTube right now talking about the DK Metcalf situation. He said that he feels like DK is the taller version of Julio. I'm assuming Julio Jones is who he's referring to. So he's saying DK is a taller Julio Jones. So that's another one to throw in the mix there. I like that. As he's comparable to DK.
Way more aggressive than Julio, but yeah, I see that. Like I think the Terrell Owens, I think all those are really good. It's just he's so physical. Like it just reminds me of like Anquan. Anquan was so physical. Man, I loved him. I hated him in Baltimore, but man, I loved him so much. So yeah, that's a good one. Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the fan bringing that up.
That's right, man.
So just a thought. Yeah. And I know you want to move on maybe to other games with the Trevor thing. Second half, you got to give credit to their offense. Their offensive line, they really kept him clean that second half. He got sacked twice in the game. So, that alone, fantastic. But he only got hit 5 times. And Herbert got hit like 10. And so I think they kept him clean. They tightened it up second half. And then, of course, I think just really bad coaching on the Chargers side. Play calling, they played not to lose. And they – anyway.
That's exactly it. Well, and I don't even know if so much play to lose because there was like times where they had the lead and they were throwing like 2 deep passes on first and second down, and then like doing a handoff, and like they would knock off like I don't know 30 seconds on the play, on the whole game clock. So what are you doing? Like Eckler didn't get involved much. I mean, I wrote down in my notes who let Staley back on the plane, and he threw his offensive coordinator under the bus because he's no longer with them. So unbelievable. So,
and the thing is, I'll say this: that game was not lost because of the Chargers' offensive coordinator. No, if you were going to pick one person who had absolutely nothing to do with them blowing that game, it is the Chargers' offensive coordinator. Right. The head coach, definitely. The defensive coordinator, possibly. 100% not an issue with the offensive coordinator. You're just looking for a sacrificial lamb here. I honestly don't think it's a very good look by Brandon Staley because you just didn't need to make that move. I mean, there's no – again, if you're not happy with him, you're not happy with him. But honestly, even that, I would wait. I would wait to make that move because it looks like a reactionary move that you're just trying to blame somebody for what happened. Not a good look.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on now to the Sunday games. And we're going to start with the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And gents, we talked about this game last week quite a bit, and it was a pretty sure shot that Buffalo was going to absolutely run away with this. We had a Dolphins team on a third-string quarterback. They have no Tua due to his consistently broken head, no Teddy Bridgewater due to his consistently broken everything other than his head, and so they're playing with Skylar Thompson. And no one knows who Skylar Thompson is. They did say that his father showed up to the game, so that was good. And maybe they're meeting for the first time because no one else knows who in the world Skylar Thompson is. And the guy, look, honestly handled himself relatively well in the game in the grand scheme of things. Like,
he didn't lose the game for him. Yeah,
no, they were competitive. Yeah, and so if you're Skylar Thompson, you can walk away feeling decent about how you played in that game and what you were able to to put together. So again, could you do better? Absolutely, plenty of room for improvement. But you're a guy getting thrown in here and you're making things happen. And to keep that team competitive for as long as they were, and they were all the way down to the last minute. It was an impressive show of heart and guts by the Dolphins. And honestly, again, some head coaching issues, miscommunication at the end of the game there on the use of the time and the down situation there with head coach Mike McDaniel. So a lot of interesting kind of things to dive in there. So who anyone want to touch on anything with that game?
Yeah, I got a few things. So first off, divisional games, man. Divisional games. It does not matter. I swear it does not matter. And we probably should have known that going into it and maybe rethought of it. But what did we say? What did we say was we had this conversation. What do the Dolphins need to do to beat the Bills? And we said they needed to turn them over minimum 3 times. Turnovers.
They
did.
Yep.
They turned them over 3 times. However, they end up having 2 turnovers themselves. And the Dolphins D gave up 423 yards. Like I said, you can't put this on Skylar at all. Fun fact, he was drafted just ahead of Brock Purdy. So, the 4th and 2.
Wow.
The 4th and 2 play, you can't take a delay a game there. That's on McDaniel not getting that play call in.
Yeah.
Hey, and Bills have got to take care of the ball. If they want to get past the divisional round, they got to take care of the football.
Yeah, look, they won that game. They won't win any other games playing the same way they played in that game. They're going to have to be a completely different team moving forward. I think they will be for the record, but they're going to have to be.
Exactly.
For as close as the game was in the end, and everything that Skylar did, I mean, listen, you cannot not throw the ball when you have Waddle and you have Tyreek Hill out there, right? You got to. But the one thing that didn't happen in this ball game that could have separated them was they never established the run. Mostert didn't play that game. They had to rely on Wilson, and they also had to rely on whatever creative things that McDaniels did with Waddle and with Hill getting them the ball, try to get them to run the ball as well. So, total yardage, they have 42 yards, coming from the backfield. And if you can't establish that, we know you're throwing the ball. That's a given. You're not going to not try to get the ball into those receivers' hands. But they dropped the ball a lot. They dropped a lot of balls that game, and Skylar Thompson dropped back 45 times. He launched it 45 times and only completed 18 of those. So,
and that's not your recipe for success.
No.
You had to know going in that if Skylar Thompson's throwing the ball 45 times, that's a terrible thing. You know you're probably losing. And they just did not execute on their game plan. And you're right, the receivers were really terrible for Miami in that game. I mean, Jalen Waddle didn't even have a catch until, the fourth quarter or something like that? Jalen Waddle was a non-factor. And by him being a non-factor, they could continue to bracket and double Tyreek. And, you saw Mike Gesicki get a touchdown in the back of the end zone. He did a little bit. But man, you needed every person to come up big and play their part. And Jalen Waddle didn't. I mean, he above and beyond anyone else just didn't do his job.
Agreed.
T-Rock, anything from you on this?
I mean, kudos to them for staying in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
sure.
To lose by 3 with everything you all just said. I mean,
yep.
You average 2.1 yards per carry out of your running backs, and your quarterback averages 4.9 yards per completion. Like, I don't know. Kudos to you for even being in it.
That's it.
They made it interesting, which I think that's why you love the NFL.
Yeah.
That's right.
Is because Skylar Thompson can go 18 for 45, your running back can go 42, and you can still put up 31 points and lose by 3. So
that's crazy.
That's why people watch the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah. So true. So true. All right. So now we move into the next game here. And the next game is the New York Giants and the Minnesota Vikings. I went out and said 100%, in my opinion, this should be a Vikings win. And it was a disaster for the Vikings because really at the end of the day, the same things happened that always happen, which is they couldn't control the game. Kirk Cousins couldn't do what needed to be done when the game was really on the line. And the Giants had just a heck of a game plan coming into that game.
Heck of a game plan.
I don't know who wants to take that over, but man, I do feel like that. The Giants had an absolutely fantastic game plan coming in.
Heck of a game plan. When you're watching the game, the Giants said, come hell or high water, we are shutting down one player. And they shut him down. I mean, Justin Jefferson, he had 7 catches.
Yeah, but 68 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
Not impactful.
No, not impact. 7 catches for 47 yards. And so, I mean, TJ Hawkinson had 10 for 129. And so they just came in and said, we don't think, and I can't even, obviously Cousins didn't win the game for them, but he was 31 for 39 with 2 touchdowns. Like,
this is it. One rushing TD. Yep. Yeah,
he played really well. Just a heck of a game plan by the Giants.
Yeah.
They executed really well. And I think, Daniel Jones probably played some of the best ball I've ever seen him play.
Oh my goodness.
That point. And he went 24 for 35 for 301. But I just thought he just played really well. He played really solid, made really good decisions.
And the dude had some wheels too, man.
78 yards
watching
rushing.
him run in that game was really impressive.
Exactly
78 yards. Now, I was joking, I was texting because I get annoyed whenever you watch NFL games. They're like, and the quarterback takes off run. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Oh, that's another element of his game. He can run. I'm like, of course, yeah, everybody can run, dude. You're a professional athlete. Do you have to say it for every single quarterback in the league?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter. Look at Tom Brady rolls out. That's a respectable part of his game. He's not the fastest quarterback, but that's the element of his game you have to account for.
He's so savvy.
It's so stupid. But Daniel Jones can run. He can run.
That dude had some wheels, man. I was
wheels.
surprised, very surprised to see what he was able to do. You know, it's funny because we talked about that leading up to it, that it's just, hey, man, put the ball in the hands of Saquon. And they did that to a degree for sure. But the running game, even above and beyond Saquon, was such a huge part that it was, impressive to be able to see.
Barkley only carried the ball 9 times. Now, he did get 53 yards out of it, and he got 2 touchdowns, but Daniel Jones rushed that ball 17 times.
That's crazy.
Way to go, Mr. Jones. You've earned yourself some money this offseason. I don't care whether they can't, it's a franchise tag or it's a new contract. He earned his money. I don't know what happened to that Minnesota defense. 431 yards you give up. I mean, they couldn't get off the field on third downs. Giants were 7 of 13 on third downs, 2 for 2 on fourth downs. Couldn't get off the field. You just could not get them off the field. So I think, Hefe, I think we called this game, if I'm not mistaken. We called the Giants.
Yeah. So
Yes,
here's what here on this game alone, just to see what Daniel Jones did, and to piggyback on what Tim was saying when these announcers are talking about these quarterbacks and how they're running out of the backfield and stuff like that. Like, we're in the era now of quarterbacks, and where if you don't have mobility, right? If you can't get out of the pocket when it's collapsing on top of you to gain those yards, or even have a design play to where everything's coming out around you, and then, your option is to take off. It's where you see the Tom Brady's, I know we're going to get into that game and stuff like that, is the things that he didn't do that Daniel Jones is able to do, that we can see Josh Allen, if he wants to take off and run with it, Mahomes. Like, these guys can run. They don't have to, but they can, and they have the ability to do so, where now these are the quarterbacks that you're looking at to move the game even that much further away from the drop back quarterback that we've had for so long.
Very true. Very true. I mean, you really have seen an evolution in the quarterback position. And I feel like, you used to hear a lot about that, 5, 7, even 10 years ago, where it was, oh man, you really see and I'm talking, the Dante Culpeppers of the world. And then as we moved forward into, these more athletic guys at the quarterback, where you could see scrambling, Jake Plummer at the same time as Dante Culpepper and some of these guys. But man, it is the night and day between that type of thing and what we see now. And it's such a valued part of the game. There's no doubt in my mind, at least, that the Giants planned to run Daniel Jones because they thought no one was ever going to think that they would run Daniel Jones. So they knew, man, these fake handoffs to Saquon, Daniel's just going to be able to bootleg that thing and take off, and no one is going to be able to stop it because everyone knew what the game plan would be coming in. And they just went in the opposite direction, and he burned them consistently. It was, it was
fantastic game plan. Fantastic game plan.
Kudos to Dable. He's definitely a coach. They made the right choice there, and it's paying dividends so far.
Absolutely.
Year one looking good.
Yeah, no kidding, man. They have a lot of good things happening there, and presumably are only going to get better. So this is now again here in a few minutes we'll talk about what they have upcoming this weekend, but. So far, so good for them. So, and then we move into the Sunday night game. Sunday night.
Ouch! Ouch!
Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals. Look, I'm going to start this off just by saying, and people that listen to the show know. So T-Rock and I are both Ravens fans. Not a secret. This was a challenging game because no one on planet Earth thought the Ravens had a chance in this game. I think I saw 18 sports reporters picking, and out of 18, all 18 picked the Bengals. Like, this was no one thought whatsoever that the Ravens would even be in this game. Last week, I called the Ravens. And not only called it, as some people could say it was a homer pick, but I did give the game plan on how I thought they would need to do it in order to be able to get the win. And man, for most of that game, it was exactly Ravens football. Early in the game, the first drive or two, man, Cincinnati was just mowing down the field. It was effortless for them.
Yep.
But then things started to tighten up, and and a couple breaks happened, and next thing you know, you got yourself a dogfight. And look, I mean, who wants to jump in and handle this one?
T-Rock, I think you probably should go ahead and go get it off your chest.
Angry.
Therapy is good.
Angry.
Brutal.
I picked the Ravens 24-21, and like you said, Tad, we played Bengals really well this year, and so it wasn't like last year where Burrow had a
zillion yards,
1,000 yards against us alone. Of his. So it wasn't. Yeah, I think he had almost 1,000 yards just in the 2 games he played with us. So it didn't have that feeling this year. I thought defensively we were solid. It really just came. We had to play flawless football to beat them, and we did.
And look, bottom line is you get to that goal line, right? We all know the play that we're going to talk about. You have a goal line play, and if you're the Ravens, I don't mind the quarterback sneak for the record. It's not the play I would have called in that position.
No.
But I definitely don't like the quarterback sneak the way that it was executed.
I mean, you guys were at the 1.5 or 2 at that point.
Yeah,
I
there's about
looked at the
1.5.
tape. When he leaped, he was at like the 4.
Yeah, that's
so I get it. Like if you're like the half-yard line, you're like, let me just jump and get the ball over the line. What's like? I don't know what was going through Huntley's head to go like, well, I'm 4 yards out. Let me see if I can just make this leap over these 6'5", 300-pound men, and I'm sure I can make this happen.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're a Ravens fan, you're watching this game, and it's like, wow, we're at the goal line. We're gonna be able to punch this thing in. You got J.K. Dobbins, you have Gus Edwards, and you have fullback Patrick Ricard.
Yeah. And
you don't run Ricard, Dobbins, or Edwards in a goal line situation. You try to sneak it with the quarterback.
What was it? Were any of them even in the game? I know J.K. wasn't. Like, I didn't see Ricard wasn't even out there, was he?
I don't believe on that play. I don't believe so. I think Gus was back there and maybe as a decoy.
I mean, yeah, but why not even whatever?
It was bad.
It was
and the
bad,
thing is, it's difficult because you're watching it and it's like every single thing is feeling like the Ravens are actually going to find a way to claw through this with a backup quarterback who's coming off of some injuries, and he's only playing to gut it out so that you don't have to play the third string quarterback. And you're just like, oh my goodness, we are going to find a way to pull this out. And then when Tyler Huntley goes for that sneak at the goal line.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
That's basically that's actually live sound from my basement when that play happened, and I'm watching the Bengals return that fumble for a touchdown. It's an unimaginable situation to be in, and that one play literally ends up being the difference in the game completely. I mean, it made all the difference in the world, and it should have never ever happened like that or been in that situation.
Now, I'm not a Greg Roman fan. Not a fan. I'm pretty vocal about that. I think pretty much every time Tattarillo and I text about this, I'd like to see him gone. But it's not because he doesn't show flashes of brilliance. I mean, there are for a majority of, aside from Huntley's mistakes, Linderbaugh, that was a really good game plan for our offense to take advantage of where they were weak, and we really did play extremely well on the offensive side. Where he has killed me is, for some reason, when he gets into the red zone, play calling is just horrible. You take out the 1 year Lamar had, 36 touchdowns or whatever. You take that year out, he doesn't. Once we get in that red zone, his play calling is just god awful. And I think this was just another example of that.
It's so predictable.
Yeah, why get fancy though? Like at the same time, like Patrick Ricard is like the number 2 fullback in the NFL. You invested in that offensive line. You went out and you got Morgan Moses. Run the ball. Give the ball to J.K. I don't care. Give it to Gus Edwards. I don't care which one. put Ricard in the regular line up in the eye and run it down their throats.
Yep.
Stop getting fancy. It doesn't make any. Stop getting fancy. I'm not a Ravens fan, but I'm definitely less of a Bengals fan. So I was a little disappointed in this game for sure. I mean, it's hard to put the game on Huntley, but his 2 turnovers, I mean, that was the game. He cost you guys the game. So I don't know. Burrow didn't do anything except for not turn the ball over. He just did what he was supposed to do. So y'all had him on the ropes and you let him off the hook.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, it's completely true, man. It was challenging to see. So, Hefe, you got anything on that one before we move on?
Just nitpicking on things like Tim. You mentioned Lamar Jackson's year that he had, great efforts in the red zone, stuff like that. How many of those were by his own doing? Meaning bootlegs,
right.
Meaning him creating something, outside of whatever the
Off
play
schedule,
needed in order for them to score, right? So the only thing that I would say is that I know, at times Huntley has, shown glimpses of maybe being like Lamar Jackson. I'm not comparing the two whatsoever. What I'm saying is that, you guys drafted him because there were some similarities in his game that would pair well, that if, like how he did with Lamar Jackson being out, he can come in and do, something to what Lamar Jackson could do. So at that one moment, you're right. I don't understand why you're 4 yards out. You're going to try to jump over the line. Why not bootleg it? Why not use your legs, come out to the outside, do something? Revisionist history, whatever, it's over. I know it didn't work out, but I'm just saying, yes, you could have been more creative when it came down to it with him if he is supposed to be something that is similar, not quite, to Lamar Jackson. Like, you shouldn't have to be able to change the game plan because he is supposed to be somewhat like Lamar Jackson.